welcome to our program today. I think many of you may know me. I'm Joe Cuyava, your Millcreek Township Supervisor. And today I have a special guest, Ed Carty. Ed Carty is the Regional Manager for the area. He works for BIU, who's the inspectors, not only for Millcreek Township, but for Fairview Township and also Harbor Creek Township. And Ed, I just want to say thank you and welcome to our program today.
Thanks, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here.
And one of the things that I do want to share with the folks and why we're doing a program today is the inspections that are going on. And recently, I had the opportunity to do a building project at my home with a swimming pool and a deck. And at first, it was very frustrating. And I thought, you know what? I really need to share that with the people in Millcreek and Fairview and Girard, and be able to, Fairview and Harbor Creek, I should say, and share that with the people, because it's not as frustrating as I thought it was if you just communicate with your builder and also the inspectors that work for Ed. One of the things, Ed, that I wanted to talk about today was, how did the building inspection come about? How was it created, and why do we have to do this today?
Well, in Pennsylvania, it was a little different. Pennsylvania was, I believe, the next to the last state in the union to adopt the Uniform Construction Code. And that in itself tells you that Pennsylvania was a little bit behind the times. There were a lot of legislators' issues that they finally realized that they need to adopt a Uniform Construction Code, because many areas throughout the state had no regulatory building codes whatsoever. Other areas had good regulatory building codes, but it was a hodgepodge of a mix, and nothing was uniform. So hence came the Uniform Construction Code in Pennsylvania. They started a process in 1999. In 2004, the regulatory process was finalized, and at that time, the municipalities were given the option to either opt in to enforcement of the construction code. By opting in, I mean the municipalities that elected to administer the Uniform Construction Code had to adopt an ordinance. And there were set rules and regulations that were provided by the State's Act, I should say, to administer the code. The state adopted nationally recognized model building codes that have been somewhat modified over the 8 years since the Uniform Construction Code has been in effect, but not much. These set of codes that the state of Pennsylvania is using now are the international construction codes, and they're recognized throughout the world, and pretty much uniform throughout the United States.
And really, isn't this more so now for the residents? Because I remember that when you do a commercial building, it was always where you had to follow L&I, Labor and Industries standards, and the commercial end of the buildings were always being done somewhat, maybe not in detail like they are right now. But as far as doing some type of inspection, they all had to meet different criteria for any type of a commercial building. But now it's a homeowner, and as we were talking off air here, I think your home is probably your largest investment, other than your family and college and stuff like that. But you know, when you build a home, whether it's a new home or you're buying a home, I think that's probably the most important thing, is to say that your home is safe. To know that when it was built, it was done right, and that when you go to sell it and move up or upgrade, or if you're moving out of town because of your job or whatever, that home was built. It was built to a standard that, and all standards are basically all about safety. Whether it's your home, a business, or whatever you're building, it's all about safety. So, you know, I think that is it a step up from L&I, or how does it play? How does BIU and the building inspections work with and along with L&I?
L&I has taken actually a step back, to be honest with you. Now they're into more so an administrative role, overseeing some provisions of the building code. You're correct. Prior to 2004, L&I had regulatory control on commercial buildings, but with their review and inspections were what was what was done under what at that time was called the Fire and Panic Act. And it was a building code, but then again, it wasn't a building code because it majorly focused on life safety. Do you have enough exit doors? Do you have enough exit lighting? The building code that the state has now is an all-encompassing code. It deals with structural integrity. It deals with distances of other buildings, for example, for firefighting purposes. It deals with just all aspects of accesses of building from the ground up, and all types of buildings also. But keep in mind, again, this is a minimum standards code. So where the previous code that the state regulated was a life safety code, this encompasses everything. And the other part of it was, prior to the adoption of the Uniform Construction Code, there was no regulatory or minimum standards set for 1 and 2 family homes and townhouses. L&I did not look at those structures. They only looked at what we call now the commercial structures. So the building codes that are in place now are 2 separate entities. One set of codes and standards regulates commercial construction, and there's a completely separate set of standards that regulate 1 and 2 family dwellings and townhouses. And the nice thing about it is that the standards that are in place for 1 and 2 family homes is an all-encompassing book, and it's minimum standards. If you have an issue, if your builder has an issue with a particular design or particular project, he can coordinate with that inspector, open the book up, and hopefully find the answer.
And I appreciate that. And one of the things, and as I said to the folks, and I'll say to you now, is I went through a process just recently, and that's why the program today. Because I really thought that it was important enough to bring to you, the residents of Millcreek, and again, Fairview Township and Harbor Creek, because you do the same building inspections for Harbor Creek and for Millcreek, because we, the 3 townships, went together, and we thought it was a lot easier to know that you have one company to deal with, whether you're working in Fairview Township, Millcreek Township, or Harbor Creek Township, that you've got one company that you're dealing with. Whether they're coming to Millcreek or if someone gets sick and Tom's not here and Tom is upstairs. And that's what I want to tell people. Tom is upstairs every day at Millcreek Township. He's in the office, in the zoning office, from 8 o'clock until 9 o'clock and even later, and then he goes out and does all the inspections that he has to do. And I think that you have something like that in Harbor Creek and something like that in Fairview also, where you have one person that's in charge, but all the people work for the same company. So they're really cross-trained. They know what the book is. They're knowledgeable. And when we did the deck, I know that I've kidded with you and we've shared some things, but when we did the pool, there's standards to make sure that they're safe. And you think about it when you're going through that process, and it's like, why do I have to do this? And I got to tell you, and if Tom sees the program, he's probably going to want to raise, but I had the opportunity to sit down with Tom and say, you know what, Tom, I don't understand it. We're putting in a pool. Why do we have to do all this? And he did take the time and explain to us why you have to put that ground rod around the outside of the pool, why things have to be the way they are. And it's really all about safety, and you never know what's going to happen. You're enjoying yourself, and all of a sudden a storm comes up, and everyone's not out of the pool, and if it's, something does happen, at least you know it's safe. But I think the big thing, and this is what I wanted to share with the people today and have the program, was when we were doing our deck. Oh my goodness, I thought, dear Lord, the things you have to go through in order to get a deck built onto a pool. Not just a regular deck, but when you have a pool that's associated with a deck, it was like, I wanted a deck because ours is 2-tier. You come out of our kitchen and there was the original deck. You come down the steps and you go to the new deck. But then you go down the other steps, and I said, you know what? When I found out that we had to put a gate at the bottom of the steps, I said, either the dog's got to go, because I'm not getting up in the winter and going down and unlocking that gate, or the deck's got to go, one or the other, and we'll just use a ladder to get in and out of the pool. But I really have to say, and thank you, you've got some great people working for you, especially Tom here at Millcreek. It's all about communication. My wife and I sat down and we told our builder, this is what we want. And we got a reputable builder. But we said, this is what we want, and he then drew it up. We submitted it to Tom, and Tom said, okay, that's fine. We had a couple little changes. But when he came back and told us that we had to put a gate at the bottom of the steps, we had to have it alarmed in the house, I said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. And then I got frustrated. Came back in, and I talked to our builder, I talked to Tom, and I think that's what it's all about. It's sitting down when you have a problem and not assuming that everybody knows what's going on, because our builder knew what we wanted, and he really hadn't been through this yet as far as building a deck attached to a pool, so it was new for him. So when I get the bill, I'm going to tell him that I have to deduct something because we had to train him. But it was about sitting down with the builder, letting him know how we wanted it, and then letting Tom know and how we could make some changes. And we did. We made 3 changes. It was all about separating the pool from the deck, to be able to enjoy using our deck. But then when the grandkids came over and they wanted to go swimming, or anybody wanted to go swimming, to know that it was safe having the right gates there so that the kids, something wouldn't happen with kids. And we see it every day with drownings and pools and creeks and stuff like that. But I have to say, communicating with our builder and communicating with Tom, and then getting them both together on site and say, okay, how can we accomplish this? Tom was very helpful. He can suggest things, but he can't do it for you. And he suggested some things to the builder, and once we sat down and we talked about it with everybody there, we were able to accomplish what we have today, which is a beautiful deck with a pool, and knowing in the back of my mind as a grandparent, knowing that when my granddaughters come over, or anybody's over, that it's safe. And I think that's what the inspection is all about, is safety today, knowing that whatever you build, you don't have to worry about it. Can anything happen? Yes. But when you're done building it, you know that it's safe, and that if someone comes over and visits, that you don't have to worry about somebody getting hurt.
You're exactly right. Building codes, I've been in the business for a long time. Building codes are 90% life safety. Mm-hmm. That's their major intention, is to deal with issues that potentially harm people. And when Pennsylvania adopted a set of uniform codes, I raised the level and raised the bar a lot for life safety for residents in Pennsylvania. And then further, the means of adopting or means of administrating, as I said earlier, it allowed municipalities to elect to either opt in and opt out. I have to commend you and the other municipalities that elected to opt in. They took it upon themselves to realize that this is going to be a issue or benefit for their residents. They took the time to choose the best possible agencies, and they went through the process mm-hmm. for the residents, as opposed to electing to opt out and not looking out for the welfare of the residents. Mm-hmm. So you're right. And our means of doing thing is not just to go and check that and walk away. The building codes are too complicated. Mm-hmm. There's too many ways to solve a problem. So discussing those problems with the builder, the homeowner, you have 3 entities there that have 3 different ideas of how this project needs to get done. And the best way to reach that goal is to discuss it.
Yeah, communication is a big thing. If you're watching today and you're going to do a project, please let me just advise you, get with your builder, but then also come in and sit down with the inspector that's here at Millcreek Township. Share your ideas with that inspector and your builder. And I know that if we would have done that, hindsight's always better than foresight, but if we would have come in, sat down, and explained it with our builder there, our goals and what we wanted to accomplish with the deck and the pool, I think it would have been a lot better for us. I thought it was aggravating and frustrating at first, but now that it's all done, it's safe, it looks great, and I know and I have a peace of mind that if I sell our house and somebody else comes in and they don't make any changes, that it's safe for them also. And it did help, it does help with resale, because when someone inspects that home or the business or whatever it may be, you know that it's safe and that you don't have to worry about doing anything after the fact then.
That's a very good point. And I think the lending agencies and a lot of other agencies that are involved in the home market are becoming very cognizant of the inspection process. When an inspection is done on a property and a certificate of approval or a certificate of occupancy is issued, that is basically certifying that this particular job or this new home construction meets minimum standard codes. And that carries a lot. If a municipality didn't have a minimum standards, things would be built without checks or inspections to verify that they met those minimum standards. Looking long term, what does that do for a municipality? It has the great potential to decrease property values and allow structures and homes to deteriorate much faster than they would if they weren't held to at least a minimum standard.
And I know, Ed, we've got a project that we're doing here at the Township, a new salt storage building. And it was very controversial at first because there was another township that wanted to do something. But again, when you sit down with the builder, when you sit down with the inspector, and you explain what you really want to do, and you're willing to work with one another, and that's what I like about BIU, is that the willingness is there to sit down, make sure it can be accomplished, and make sure that it's safe. Because again, your home is probably the largest investment that you have. Other than, you know, your kids in college, it's probably the thing that you're gonna, if you do resell, you'll have a peace of mind knowing that it's safe and that someone, I think you could even market it. This house was built, it was inspected, and it's safe. You can move in today and know that you won't have any issues with it.
That's what we're finding out, at least in our office, is that many lending agencies, the finalization of the project is very contingent on the issuance of the C of O. They want that piece of paperwork in their file because that's a good guarantee that this building was checked and it was done right.
It's like an insurance policy.
Sure,
yeah.
Sure. And as you said about the salt storage building, we worked on both projects. Both are very, very nice, very well constructed buildings, but both are completely different, but both meet code. And it's the whole idea of sitting down. There's no two buildings that are built the same, or very rarely in my experience. But so not one application applies for all.
That's right.
So it's the idea of getting to the resolve of that problem and getting the job done.
Yeah. I know we've talked a lot about your projects, like a pool or a deck or whatever it might be, whether it's an addition on your house or whatever. But I know that you're very involved with the Builders Association. And just recently I had an individual that is part of that. They came to me and said, you know what? I hear you're doing a program with them, and I'd really like to, number one, see it, and then be able to comment. And I'm thinking, oh no, now what did we stir up? And his comment to me was, you know what, I've been working with Ed. We had him do a recent letter for us in our magazine, and things are going better. At first, like I said, even with my project, it was a learning curve. Once we learned what we had to do to meet code, and once we knew why, it was the safety aspect, I think that it went very well. And I think that the builders now, I think that you've had that personal experience with them, and the commercial end of it is going a lot better than it did when we first got started.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that your office handles it that way, that if there's a problem, then you're willing to sit down with them, call you, sit down, set up a meeting or whatever to get it resolved.
I could see, and again, this stems from a fault in Pennsylvania by not having a uniform code. There's some very, very good. When I came to the Erie area, as I said, I've been in this for 25 years, so I've dealt with a lot of builders. When I came to the Erie area, I found out there's some very, very good builders in this area, but they were not familiar or had ever been introduced to the inspection aspect of the of their profession, because it wasn't here. It wasn't necessary. So when we came in 2004, I can honestly feel for them. It was a surprise. Whoa, wait a minute. Why do I have to get a permit? why do I have to go through these codes? Why do I have to look and meet with the builder and have these inspections? It was a disruption. So they weren't accustomed to it. But there's, again, it in no way degraded their work. There's some quality builders out there, and you can see from the type of structures in the homes that are built in this area. Mm-hmm. But I think once we got into discussions with them, pointed out some things that they weren't aware of, because it's not their job to, those codes are huge. And it's not their job to research those codes. But when they found out, when the inspectors pointed out a few things that would enhance their building, make it better for their client, it's a better selling tool for them.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big thing, is working with people and having, because here at Millcreek Township, and I know it's the other townships that also have BIU, is that if you have a problem, you can pick up the phone and call. If you want to come in and set up an appointment to talk to somebody, I know that's an inconvenience, but I have got to say, once you do something like that and you sit down and you talk about it, you bring your plans in, because I've done many decks. I'm not a builder, but I said, how tough can it be to build a deck? But with the codes, I didn't realize, and the deck that was built on our house originally, I can see today, we changed even our existing deck, because after talking with Tom and understanding why the codes are the way they are, it made a lot of sense to do it the right way, to have that 4-inch ball not be able to pass through those spindles for safety for kids. So with that being said, I know that everything that you guys are doing is all about safety. It's not about money, because we've already negotiated that for the residents. It's about their safety and knowing that that structure is going to be here for years, and it's going to be a safe structure in Millcreek, and that the resale of that structure is going to be very, very good for them, knowing that they've got a piece of paper saying it was built according to Pennsylvania code. And then they can sleep at night knowing that they've got a great building. Sure. So with that being said, I know that I'm getting a 2-minute sign, and time just seems to fly when you're doing these programs. Is there anything that I forgot that you'd like to add? No,
I think you hit the nail on the head, so to speak, Joe. Speaking in construction terms, I'm glad you asked me here, because BIU works in a little different manner. We're not contracted to do inspection and move on. All our inspectors are paid salary. So if you need to spend the time and discuss a project, whether it be a homeowner or a builder, we're available, because that's a service you guys contracted us for.
Great. I just want to thank you for tuning in today and watching our program. I thought it would be beneficial to you, the residents of Millcreek Township, because again, if you're thinking about doing a construction project, whether it's a new home in Millcreek, or it's a shed or an addition, a swimming pool or a deck, please sit down with your builder. Ask him if he's gone through inspections with BIU, and if not, please come in with them so that you can let the inspector know that what you want to do is this. Your builder hears it, and then also the inspector can give advice to the builder as to what he will be looking for when he does a final inspection on your project. It's all about safety, and as a supervisor, I know that's my number one concern. As a grandparent who had a pool and a deck, I know that I didn't want anything happening to my kids or anybody that would visit. So with that being said, please, if you have any problems, give us a call here at the Township. Call the builders here at the Township. Set up an appointment. Sit down and share your ideas with your builder and your inspector, and together I know that we can make it happen. Thank you for watching our program today.